Welcome to SENDiass4BCP's webinar on Governor's Disciplinary Committee hearings. Today we will be looking at when a governing body meeting must take place, preparing written representations, attending the hearing, possible outcomes following the hearing, and where to access some further support should you need it. If a child has been suspended or excluded from school, then you may wish to consider making representations to the governing body. This does not include independent schools, including Section 41 schools, non-maintained specialist schools, or further education settings, as these settings will have their own policies on suspensions and exclusions and are not required to follow the guidance issued by the Department for Education. If a suspension has been issued for up to and including 5 days in a term, then there is no requirement for the governing body to meet. However, you may still wish to provide some written representations to them. The governing body is not able to overturn a decision made by a head teacher for suspensions issued of 5 days or less in a term. If a suspension has been issued, which then means a child has been suspended for between 5 and 15 days in a term, then the governors must meet within 50 school days should you request this. Otherwise, there is no requirement for them to do so. If either a suspension has been issued, which brings the total to over 15 days in a term, or a child may miss an external or national curriculum exam, then the governing body must meet. This must be held within 15 school days, with reasonable steps made to ensure a meeting is held before the exam takes place. If you do not provide written representations or attend the meeting, then the meeting will still take place and a decision made on whether to uphold or overturn the decision to suspend. This is the same for if a child has been issued with a permanent exclusion. A head teacher can revoke a decision to permanently exclude before the governing body meets for a hearing. So you may wish to consider raising any concerns prior to the meeting, in hope you can come to an alternative resolution with the school. If not, then you may wish to consider the following when preparing a submission to the governors prior to the hearing for their consideration. You will find some links on the suspensions and exclusions page of our website to template letters to support you further with this. You should aim to provide this by 5 school days prior to the meeting, so an information pack can be prepared for you with the information being considered by the panel. This will include your written representations if you provide them. If this is not possible, then try to advise the clerk of when they will be ready for you to share with them. When preparing your representations, you may wish to consider: have they been suspended or excluded for a disciplinary reason? Is the suspension or exclusion proportionate? Have the school identified and considered any special educational needs and disabilities your child may have? Was the suspension or exclusion extended or converted without any further significant evidence to being produced? Was a reason given for the suspension or exclusion, and was this explained in a way for you to fully understand? Is your child a looked after child or previously looked after child? Did the school conduct a fair investigation, including gathering your child's views prior to making the decision? Did the school implement any early intervention? Would the exclusion have a significant impact on your child? Is there an alternative to the suspension or exclusion? And if a child has an EHC plan, has an early review been called to address any concerns? At a governing panel meeting, otherwise referred to as a GDC or Governor Disciplinary Committee hearing, there should be the following in attendance: 3 governors or board members, 1 note taker or clerk, the head teacher who made the decision, and possibly additional school representatives. The local authority should be invited, as well as the child social worker if they have one, or representative from the virtual school if the child is a looked after child or previously looked after child. And also any representative or support of your choosing. You should inform the clerk of anyone attending with you prior to the hearing. To ensure the hearing is procedurally fair, there are a number of standard practices that should be observed. That is, that all parties should enter and leave the hearing room at the same time. All parties should be given equal time, and parties should not be allowed to speak over one another. Sufficient time should be allowed for the hearing, so submissions can be fully heard. And the panel should not prejudge arguments or disallow parties from making arguments they want to raise in their defence. Although not statutory, there is a general format for a hearing to take place. The agenda will likely be similar to the following. Firstly, there will be introductions from the panel and the attendees of the meeting. The school will make a statement explaining how and why they came to the decisions that they have. The panel and family will have the opportunity to ask questions of the school. And then the family will have an opportunity to make a statement. Again, the panel and school will have the opportunity to ask questions of the family. And both parties will have the opportunity to make a closing statement at the end. In addition to your written representations you may have submitted, you may also wish to prepare a statement. Some families like to leave it for the day itself, but it is sometimes helpful to prepare something in advance in case you become nervous, as someone else can support you by reading it out on your behalf if needed. The same goes for questions. You may find the panel already asked a lot of questions you had, or more may come as the school make their statement. There is, however, no requirement to ask any questions if you have nothing to add. The governing panel's questions to you will generally be so they can gain a better understanding of the situation or your child's needs. There are 2 possible outcomes to a governing panel hearing, that is, to uphold the decision of the head teacher or overturn the decision and reinstate the pupil. When making this decision, the governing board must conclude what happened on the balance of probabilities. They must consider the evidence presented to them, but should also take steps to see any further evidence that they should reasonably expect to see before forming a conclusion. They will need to undertake a full review of the lawfulness of the head teacher's decision, applying all the relevant law. The decision is usually provided in writing in 1 to 5 days, but should be provided without delay. This must set out their reasons for the decision in sufficient detail to enable all parties to understand why it was made. The decision letter must include how to request an independent review panel. If you require any further support with a Governor's Disciplinary Committee hearing, You can visit our website at SENDiass4BCP.org, where you will find lots of free resources to help you. You can email help@sendiass4bcp.org, or you can contact our advice line, open Monday to Thursday, 9:30 till 12:30.